let's dive right in. So today I'm going to talk to you about the step-by-step process I took to heal my breast implant illness. Now, everybody's journey might look a little different, but you can take this information and you can bring it to your naturopath or your functional medicine doctor, or you can even work with me, and we can get to the root cause of your symptoms. Now, before we get started, I have to mention, when I speak with women initially about their breast implant illness, most of them think very linearly. Okay, so what I mean by that is they think that having their breast implants caused all these symptoms, taking their breast implants out will relieve all of these symptoms. Well, unfortunately, that's very untrue for the majority of women that I see. And the reason for that, when you put the breast implants in, it is a foreign object being put into your body. Cool, we know that. What happens is it causes a response from the body to try and push it out. So it's like very similar to, drinking alcohol. Your body has a response to try to push that poison out of your body. It's trying to detox, it's trying to filter. So in the same way, your body just has a response. That response is an inflammatory response, which is fine. That is your body's natural immune system kicking in. And it's actually something that we want in normal cases. It's just not something that we want when it comes to the aesthetic of our breast implants. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. There is an immune response that causes inflammation. So it's not exactly the breast implant that is the problem. I mean, it is, but it's the inflammation that is the problem. So when there's inflammation in the body, it causes a stress response. So then our stress hormones kick in. So our cortisol level spikes. And then when our cortisol level spikes, another hormone called DHEA plummets. And if this goes on for too long, so you obviously have these breast implants in the long term. I had mine in for 10 years. So your cortisol level is sitting on high for 10 years. Eventually your adrenal glands, which is where that cortisol hormone is produced, is going to kind of tire out. Once it tires out, now you have your cortisol tank, which is where symptoms start to pop up. So you probably feel a lot of fatigue, or at least I felt a lot of fatigue. You might feel anxiety, depression, just like low mood, irritability. So along with cortisol tanking, again, that second hormone, DHEA, which is super important for your sex hormones, that one also starts to tank because they rely on each other. So now you've got your two main hormones at low levels, which affects your sex hormones, which can lead to estrogen dominance, or it can lead to just completely suppressed hormones altogether, which is where you're going to start to see things like low sex drive, perhaps acne. You might find that your hair is falling out. You might find that now you're starting to have hypothyroid type symptoms. Again, that low energy, exhaustion. You might even have full night's sleep, 8 hours a night, but waking up exhausted, no motivation, no drive. These were just, again, some of the issues that I have seen in women and some of the issues that I have had. So let's say those symptoms start to happen at about 5 years into your breast implant journey. Okay, great. You haven't put them together. You probably chalk them up to something else in your life. Maybe a relationship stress or job stress, or you just moved, or you got a new career, or maybe there was a breakup, a loss of a loved one. There are always reasons in our life to feel that stress, and we can always chalk that sort of exhaustion, low sex drive, low mood, etc. up to, external stressors. But the fact is remaining that the root cause of it is actually an internal stressor, right? We're back to our breast implants causing that inflammation, causing those stress hormones to ignite. So if you go now past the hormone scenario, okay, what happens when your hormones are not being flushed out of your body properly? They're not being produced enough. It happens to involve your liver. A lot of your hormones are actually produced in your liver, but if it's not happening properly, then we can say that perhaps there's a sluggish liver. When there's a sluggish liver, we often see hormonal imbalance because either hormones are being recirculated into the bloodstream because it can't actually eliminate, or you might even find that it's just not producing enough, and that's where you'll find the suppression of hormones. But If there is an issue with the liver, you can bet that there is also going to be an issue with your digestive system. Your liver is a part of your digestive system. It helps break down food, it helps transport out toxins, it helps detox your body. And as I mentioned, when there is an inflammatory immune response, and it is chronic, it becomes this cascade effect across your body. So oftentimes you go further into your journey, it's becoming a little bit more chronic. We're starting to see digestive symptoms. We're starting to see constipation, diarrhea, IBS, things like SIBO or small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. We are starting to see low stomach acid, heartburn. We are starting to see a little bit of reflux. So there are symptoms like that that can also be traced back to this stressor being your breast implants, this foreign object in your body. So I know that these things can feel so far removed from what you would think a breast implant might cause, but this is how seamlessly integrated your body's metabolic systems actually are. The first thing that I had to do was I had to admit that it was my breast implants. I had been going for about 2 years to see a natural practitioner, and obviously working with my own knowledge and changing my diet, and I was on supplements to help support these systems. So I was already doing things to help me work on my digestive, my hormones, and my liver. And they would seem to get better, and then it would seem like more symptoms would sort of pop up. So I felt like I really ruled out every other option before I decided to take my breast implants out. One, because it cost me $10,000. Two, because it was a major surgery, and surgery again can cause stress on the body, whether that is the anesthesia, and then just having like a physical trauma to your body can also be very stressful on your body. So I wanted to make sure that we had to rule out everything and to not go into the surgery with any kind of question that I was doing the wrong thing, or I was doing it for the wrong reasons, or like they come out and then what? I still feel like shit all the time and I've regretted taking out something that I once loved. So step one is that I had to rule out everything. I had to admit that my breast implants were causing a problem, and then ultimately I had to explant. So step number one, I explanted. I found the doctor, I had them out, I supported my body through that process, and then I was gearing up for step number two. So step number two comes, I have access to all of the foundational labs, which I can give you access to, and you can actually do all of them from home. But there are 4 foundational labs that I would recommend anybody who is considering explanting doing, especially if you had symptoms like mine. So the first one that I would do is a heavy metal analysis. So it is a hair analysis, and it takes into account all of your minerals and any heavy metals that might be in your body. And it will also give us some indication about mold, because our breast implants can actually harbor mold spores, which you've seen, I'm sure, if you've gone down this path, you've listened to other people talk about theirs. I, however, thank goodness, mine did not come back with mold. It went to pathology, did not come back with mold, and I do not have symptoms of mold, thank goodness. You might, or if you have been exposed to mold in your home, it could exacerbate these symptoms. So mold and heavy metal test is number one. Number two is a at-home stool test. And basically the at-home stool test is going to give me a very clear picture of what's going on inside your gut. So we analyze every bit of bacteria, any pathogen, whether that be a worm, a virus, fungi overgrowth, parasites, anything of that type will show in this stool test, okay? Number three is going to be a stress and hormones panel. So basically you can do this in 2 ways. You can do one as a urine test, which gives us some pretty in-depth information, but it can be quite expensive. Or you can do a saliva test, and a saliva test can be done, it is done throughout the day, 5 different points of the day. And you spit into a little jar and you freeze it and you send it off to the lab, and then I will analyze it when I get the results back. But this one is going to tell us all about those stress hormones, your cortisol levels, when it spikes, when it should spike through the day. It's going to tell us about that that parent hormone DHEA. It's going to tell us about your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone, what points of the day they're high, what points of the day that they're low, if they're coming in lower than we would like, if you have an estrogen dominance scenario. And it also tells us about your melatonin. It also tells us about your immune system. So these are super important markers that we need to know on how to support your body to bring you back to hormone balance. Okay, and this is why the hormone testing is so important. We cannot guess on this one. We can't just say, oh, well, you probably have estrogen dominance. No, we have no idea. Your symptoms of hormone imbalance could be completely different than somebody else's, and the results would read exactly the same. So this is why it's so important to test. The fourth test that I will always do with my breast implant illness women is going to be, ultimately, it's a metabolic wellness panel. And again, it can be done at home. It is just through your urine, very non-invasive. And this one tells us how your liver is functioning. Is it actually detoxing those hormones out of your system? This one also gives us an incredible marker. It's called oxidative stress. And when this one is out of range, it is a marker for all chronic disease. This one, we need to make sure it is under the moderate level. We already have a very toxic world that we're living in, and our breast implants are just causing our bodies to be even more toxic. So we need to know what level this is at before our health declines even further. So these are the 4 tests that I went through. These are the 4 tests that I recommend for my clients, specifically suffering with breast implant illness. It is so important to test and not guess. We cannot go and start supplementing your body and to start supporting your body without knowing specifics of what's going on inside of your body. You and I might have exactly the same symptoms, totally different test results. We might have totally different symptoms and exactly the same test results. We are all unique bodies, and we need to find out what that uniqueness is and support accordingly. Step number 3. So step number 3 is actually the good part. Step number 3 is where you're actually going to be implementing the personalized protocol that I give you based on your test results and your symptoms. Implement fully and really start to feel the effects of how good it feels to be on the other side of that chaos, of that brain fog, of that digestive, of that hormonal thinking and irrationality. But once you get there, once you start implementing, once you start supporting your liver, once you start balancing your hormones and fixing your digestive system, healing all of your gut, and so that you're not suffering with that constipation or that diarrhea or that bloating any longer. Once you're feeling that way and you're feeling so good in your skin and your clothes fit again and you just feel on top of the world, you are going to know that explanting was the very best decision. So I'm going to just come back full circle for 1 second. At the beginning of this video, I talked about how a lot of people think very linearly about this, like breast implant in, body feels terrible. Breast implant out, body feels better. Unfortunately, it's just not the way it goes for most women. Breast implant in, body feels terrible. Yes. Breast implant out, the damage is already done. We just aren't going to do further damage. Now it's time to repair. So if you don't get that repairing in, which is our step 2 and our step 3 in this video, then you may end up still feeling those symptoms. And then you're going to wonder if explanting was the right thing to do. But I can tell you from my experience and from the women that I work with, it is the right thing to do. We just have to get to that repair stage. Thank you so much for coming along with my journey of breast implant illness. I will keep you up to date. Please subscribe to my page for more science-backed information about holistic health.